Today I'm joined by Ketan Makwana from the United Kingdom, an amazing person that I'm privileged to know and have met, not in person yet, but virtually. I love you a lot, man. I must admit on that. And
Well,
we're
I love
going to,
you too.
thank you. I love a good bromance. And today we're going to talk specifically about, want you to share an amazing story of how you responded in the 2008 economic downturn and meltdown, and how you quickly built a business at the drop of a hat, and how you got success out of that, and how people can apply and use this upheaval that we're currently having due to COVID to build a new future for them. So that's what I want to talk about. So, but Ketan, before we start, if you can just share with us who you are and what's the amazing work that you do.
Well, look, thanks for having me, Willem. It's an honor and privilege to be part of this interview series that you're doing as well. So, my name's Ketan Makwana. For those of you who don't know me, I am a serial entrepreneur, meaning that I've had multiple businesses. The current business that I run, which is now almost 10 years of age, is Enterprise Lab. It's a business growth, an international business growth agency, which we started with very humble beginnings, looking at transitioning education or academics into industry. We then started to build more entrepreneurial skills training, which then went into consultancy, mentoring, scaling, and growth. Today, the company has over 250 experts working across 26 countries, serving around 150,000 people a year. The biggest focus within the business is being able to help you make that shift to where you want to be and where you should be. So it's mindset, and it's also systems, strategies, and talent innovation. We have a well over time doing it, and all of this, Willem, has really come from the root experience of what we're going to be talking about in a second. You know, how my landscape and environment changed, and I had to shift, or react to that change to ensure that we could survive and then thrive.
No, absolutely. And I just want to get to the 26 countries. It's not, the countries that you play in are not what a lot of people might term the sexy country.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So which are the countries that you
So,
operate? Give us
so
a few
apart
names.
from so apart from the Europes, and parts of the Americas, we're in Central America. So places like Guatemala, Honduras. We work within the Latin American corridor. We're in Peru. We're in Colombia. We're in Chile. These are what we call developing economies. Across
Yes.
the other side, we also work in Sudan, Nigeria, where we work in Kenya. We're soon to be working in South Africa. We're also in parts of Cameroon. We've done some work in Senegal. Now we're in India. We're then moving across towards the east. We're in Vietnam. We're in Thailand. We're in Malaysia. We try and pick economies which are developing, not developed. The reason being is there are two clear things that I see within this. Number one is a vast opportunity to improve that economy. The second is the drive that the individuals have within those countries.
Yes.
If you are in a well-established economy, you tend to be what I call a business owner that comes with a silver spoon. Feel like you get everything for granted, you take everything for granted. Whereas in these developing countries and economies, we tend to find there is more thirst, hunger, desire, and when you've got those natural traits, it makes much more rewarding work together. So kind of gives you an example of some of the countries that
I
we're doing.
agree with you. Sometimes we forget Western people have Western problems. Like, oh, my internet was off for half an hour this morning. Really? I
Yeah,
had load shedding for 4 hours yesterday. I didn't have
yeah,
electricity. Nobody had electricity. And people like, how
yeah,
do you survive? Well,
yeah.
you fit in.
Well, you call it Western problems. We call it wasting problems,
Oh, I love
basically,
that.
because that's all it is. People just this whole thing that we're privileged in this kind of environment. What it does is sometimes it creates this whole thing of their vulnerability isn't true. I mean, people
Yeah.
kind of moan, "Oh, I haven't got this. I haven't got this. I haven't got this." Well, that's the trigger to entrepreneurship. What are you going to do about it? You know, if you don't have it, do something about it. Oh, I can't until I get it. No, that's not how it works, really. So,
Ketan, if I could have a big red rubber stamp and just consistently walk around with it, and when people go like that, now awesome, have you started your business? I'm waiting for funding. Poof, what have you done about it? And I haven't done that. What have you done about it? And it's that simple question. What a lot of people, and when you ask them that, they go, "Wow, I never thought about that." Yeah, well, what are you going to do about it? And
the truth of that, the truth of that, Willem, is that it's when you ask that question, what have you done anything about it? And when they say no, it's not because they don't want to. They don't often know how to, or deep down they haven't admitted to themselves this is not something that they want like to do. That's the honest truth. The thing is, most people look at entrepreneurship and owning your business as Lamborghinis, Ferraris, big suits, nice clothes.
Yeah, like you and I have.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sitting here wearing a $12 T-shirt, basically, you know, and it's got holes in it as well, basically.
Well, you have a $12 T-shirt. I have a 12-year-old car.
There you go.
Yeah.
My point being about this is everyone sees the facade; they don't see what's within.
No.
And in fact, the way that social media works and the way in which people, entrepreneurship is portrayed, most people don't understand what it takes to get to that moment. It could take you 60 years of your life to get to that Ferrari, but all that people see is the Ferrari, not the 60-year journey that it took you to get.
Yeah.
The sacrifices, etc. It's when they go through these things, then they start thinking, okay, I can or I can't, I should or I shouldn't, I will or I won't. And the truth of it is most of it is couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't, and can't. It's always down that line. It's if we ask tomorrow, okay, go away and do this, the first thing someone will think about is what's stopping them from doing it, rather than going ahead and doing it. I haven't got this, I haven't got this, I haven't got this. So there is this whole, I wouldn't say it's a mindset, it's an attitude almost that you have to have towards you, that you're going to say, look, where can I go wrong now? I'm the underdog here. I've got nothing to lose. I haven't got internet. That means I can go off and strategize for the next 30 minutes while my internet resumes. Or if, like you said, you load shed for 4 hours.
I'm at the bottom of the hole. It can't go deeper. So it's only better from now. But I think you set the context quite nicely on this. So if you could share with us the story that happened in 2008, because I still sit sometimes with a beer in hand. I go like, damn, that was some quick thinking. And I take my hat off to you.
Well, let's put it this way. It wasn't planned. That's the first thing. It's,
that wasn't planned.
But I guess what happens is as you go through a career, you build some unconscious skills. And one of those is instinct and gut. So let's set the scene. It's, I've had quite a progressive career running up to 2008. I've been in IT, I've been in electronics, I've been in healthcare. On the turn of 2008, I just started clinical trials for the world's smallest dialysis machine in the UK from Canada. Wow. And I was trying to disrupt the aviation industry by actually designing dialysis rooms into A380 Airbuses, because they were talking about introducing A380s where they had whirlpools, swimming pools, showers. Well, the planes you see today, in first class have showers, for example. So if they've got a filtration system, we could tap into that. And this could be the difference between someone who needed to travel transatlantic that couldn't because of dialysis, that would be able to start doing it. And then this sudden tornado called the recession started to loom. The economic downturn, we obviously know what happened in the US with Lehman Brothers and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And this started to come its way along over the pond towards us here in the UK. And as such, the impact that it had on the business, the economic stability of the country, meant that I was put at risk. I wasn't made redundant, I was put at risk of redundancy first, which for me, I thought, okay, fair enough, it's just a risk. So, you keep persevering. And it started to unravel very, very quickly. Within 3 weeks of being put at risk, I was I was held into a room and said, "You're going to lose your job." It's what they call a LIFO moment, last in, first out. I was the most newest, almost the most newest employee in the company. Although my work was valued, they just said, "We simply can't afford you." When you're told, and I was a career geek then, I just wanted to work. I didn't want to do my own bit. I had no intention of starting my own company or anything like that whatsoever. When you're told that you are no longer, you're a surplus requirement, you're not going to have a job in the next kind of 90 days, you haven't had so long in that company, so your severance isn't going to be that great. You have a young family, you have responsibilities, you're the breadwinner. My wife wasn't going to work at that time because purely we had two children. I said, "You stay at home, look after the kids, while I'll go off and do the work." You kind of start thinking a lot about what's happening to you. Where am I going to go? How am I going to get another job? How am I going to pay my bills? What's going to happen to my house? What's going to happen to my wife? What's going to happen to my life? All of these things. It's me.
And that comes down to you in a single moment.
It does. It's a bolt lightning that hits you. But the thing is that as it hits you, it vibrates within you, creates such a vibration, which creates ripples for days and days and days. And believe me, I got to the stage where I felt so sorry for myself, so sorry to myself, and that everything else was blinded. My peripheral vision was blinded. All I could see was, I'm losing my job and there's nothing else out there. And I'm the only one in the world that this is happening to. I'm the only one in the world that's going to not be able to do this. And it took days, almost weeks to start manifesting. So as I'm going through this process, and I hadn't even told my wife that I'd be made redundant. Believe me, this is one of the other things. I'm not talking about kind of men and women for Mars and Venus, but I was quite proud. I didn't want to sit there and worry her at the same time. So I had said nothing at home. Come home, you'd eat, you go to sleep. And when you're going to bed at night, you could the lights are switched off. Everything's dark, really, really dark. You cannot see anything yet. Your eyes are open. You're looking up at the ceiling and you can see the ceiling. That's the kind of things that were going on. My mind was so hyperactive that, but all it kept saying is the same thing. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I won't be able to go here. Instead of 20 people for the job queue, there's going to be 2,000 people for the job queue. You create these answers that don't really exist until I got to the point where my back was against the wall. Within a week or two, I'd exhausted every possible scenario which was against me. And then something quite different happened. Okay, I stopped thinking about me. I stopped thinking about what this thing was doing to me, and I started to think about what was happening around me.
Yes.
I started to think about, well, okay, yes, the economy is growing. Yeah, I'm not the only one that's just losing my job. There are other people that are losing their jobs. But what's going to happen to these companies? How are they going to continue to sustain? How are they supposed to thrive when there's no resources to thrive? So I come up with an idea. Okay, it was completely off the wall. It was mad. When I was thinking about it, it was just literally the lunacy of it was the most attractive part about it.
And that's what I love about that.
Do you know the sheer lunacy, the sheer audacity of being able to say, bloody hell, that just came out of my head, right?
Yes.
And I thought, well, if it's come out of my head,
it sounds insane.
Yeah, it's just enough that it probably will work. So I was still obviously at work at that time, so I was still going back. The process, it takes roughly around 3 months for them to kind of exit you out of the company. Barged into my managing director's office, sat down on the table and said, right, I'll accept the redundancy on one condition. And he said, okay. And he said, what's that? And I said, that you give me a job.
I wish you YouTubed that. I wish you recorded that. I would have loved to see that person's face.
The guy's face was like, Ketan, I know this is a really hard time for you. Yes, but do you understand the words that come out of your mouth? I said, listen, I haven't explained to you my concept.
My cunning plan.
Yeah. And I go, just give me 5 minutes and let me explain to you what's going on. So he goes, entertain me. So I did. I turned around very simply, and I'll give it top line here for the state of this interview here that we're doing. I turned around and said, right, okay, number one, the business currently cannot afford to have resources. That's why you're letting so many people go. You can't afford to pay our taxes and all the other things and etc. You need to stabilize the business. I understand you've got to keep the shareholders happy and you've got to protect yourself. I get it. I said, the problem is no business is going to grow without resources in there doing the work. And I said, the minute you let go of them, you're almost cutting part of your arm off. You know, limb by limb, you're going to slowly start cutting your arm off. However, economies and economic activity run in circles, which means that confidence is going to come back into the market eventually. Confidence is going to come back into your industry eventually. Yeah, true. I said, so what does most businesses want to do during a recession? They want to survive. What happens as they come out of a recession and you're going into growth? You want to thrive. I said, the problem is you've cut all your limbs. You haven't got anyone to thrive for you. I said, so my idea is hire me back as a freelancer. I will deliver the little projects for you to keep you on, not on survive, but survive/thrive as you go along. When it's time, you can employ people to replace me in the projects, and away we go. I say, you don't have to pay me my taxes. You just pay me my straight retainer, which I will be 50% cheaper than anyone else on the market. So it's now costing you half of what it would have cost you right now to have me as the product manager, to be a product manager. And if you don't like my work, you can sign me off whenever you want. That was done in a kind of a 5-minute spiel, real hit. And he kind of sat back and he goes, bloody hell, that's brilliant. Okay. I didn't even know what I'd done. I think I just count myself out of the job. And I thought to myself, right, the guy's going to say you're now redundant. I have to go home and tell my wife basically that I've lost my job. What happened is he turned around, he accepted it. He goes, finish off this week, take a week off, do your redundancy, get your severance, come back as a contractor. Now, what I did is I swung from being employed to unemployed to self-employed. Okay, in one pendulum swing. 3 months later, I so forgot to tell my wife that they came and they collected the car, the phone, because my contract had finished with them. My wife goes, oh my God, you lost your job. And I said, no, I lost that 3 months ago. And she goes, and you didn't tell me. I forgot. You know, you just kind of swung into something. My mind just gauged something so perverse, you know, that this surely cannot work, that it actually did.
Yes.
And this is a lesson for any of you out there. If you've got something in there that you think, oh my God, that is so crazy that it will never work, it probably will. Because one of my mantras now is there's more than one answer to any one question. So, you know, There's always going to be more than one answer to one question. I mean, if I gave you the number 9 and give you a mathematical permutation to it, there are multiples. You could go 7 plus 2. I go 11 minus 2. You know, we get to the same answer. So all I did here is I created an answer in an environment which posed a question that I thought was too hard to answer. That's basically what happened. It was only then that this small tube light switched on. 2 or 3 months in, as I was finishing this contract with these guys, by that time I'd already gone into the market and gone to other healthcare companies and just pitched the same thing. I just said, hey guys, you've got job freeze on, you need work done, we can do the work, I've got the experience.
And I already do it for this amazing company, so I have the experience and runway to do that. And I'm like, I can trust you.
But the thing with this is, Willem, is my mouth started to write checks that my body couldn't cash. And what I mean by that,
I know where you're going, but please explain.
thought to myself, if one company takes me on, maybe 10 will give me contracts, 11, then I can safeguard my future career. Little did I realize at that point that winning the business is one thing, delivering it is going to be the problem.
I know.
Because they're not going to wait a year for you to deliver the project. They want it now. So here I'm sitting with over £1 million worth of contract, and I'm like, woohoo, money, but it's not in my bank. And then I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this work? Now, this is lesson number 2. Most people become victims of their own success. Their enthusiasm, motivation, everything runs. You know, you could keep running and hit a brick wall without thinking or without realizing it's there, or you could be running knowing the brick wall's there and still hit it. And that's what I did there. I knew that I'm writing out checks that I will not be able to cash, in the hope that actually they'll turn around and say, not now, come back to us later, or we can start these projects later. The fact of it is, the problem is everyone wanted the work now. Now, most people at this time, because I haven't got a business, remember, I'm still not a business. I'm not thinking entrepreneur business. I'm just thinking necessity. I needed to keep food coming in. I needed money to keep coming in.
Yeah.
I got to the stage where I said, holy crap. I said, I've got all of this work. I can't do it all. I'm only one guy. Now, most people at that time may, put their tail between their legs and said, I failed and give the contracts back.
Yes.
I said to myself, I'm sure there are a couple of guys out there that are in the same boat as me, trying to find a job. So I started to push out into social streams, and I started to write blog pieces and do little Twitter pieces around saying that, if you can't find a job, create one. And if you're in this kind of environment and you know that you're sitting at home and waiting for the next greatest thing to arrive, I may have an opportunity for you. And unbeknown to me, this is where curiosity started killing the cat. People started coming forwards. The first kind of 5 people that came in were from my direct network, who were very much like me and in the same position. I said, hey, I've got a 10 grand contract. I said, I'll give you 8 grand of it to deliver it for me. I'll keep 2 grand because it's my contract. And within weeks, I actually had these contracts starting to be serviced.
Okay.
But what was brilliant about it is now I'd created a system where all I ever had to do is just go and win a contract, and I already knew how much money I had.
Yes.
I still wasn't a business. It's only until I got to around about 2 million in contracts and that I'd taken on around about 20 to 25 people that I decided to incorporate this as a business and create an outsource agency.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, so the lesson number 3 here is don't jump out to make a website and a business card and think you're an entrepreneur. Create a system which is proven to work and then move from employed, unemployed, self-employed to business owner, okay? I carried on that business for about 18 months. And as I said, the economy starts to turn in circles. So as confidence started coming in the market, I knew my time was coming short in one particular way. So I had to start to diversify the business model. So, and the reason I knew that is more and more job recruiters were ringing me saying, we could take you on as a director of a corporation or a healthcare, we can give you a 6-figure salary. And I'm now sitting here thinking, I don't want to go back to work. I go, if I've got this kind of flexibility and freedom of direction or where I want to go and how I can go, and I'm secure now. I've got at least 3 or 4 years worth of money in the bank, so even if I tripped up for the next 2 years, I could still afford to live a life. So I started to diversify the business, and I started to look at building teams that would help grow businesses and ventures. I got in touch with a dragon, who's an ex-dragon now, so it's like a Shark Tank kind of person. He was in the recruitment business. He was in this area, but he was moving into venture partnering. Okay. And all I said to him on an email, now this is tenacity, okay, guys? So I didn't know how to get hold of him, because you can't just ring and get through to these people. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Yeah. So I've got his first name and I've got his second name, and I understand all the different businesses he has. So I sat there one Saturday afternoon and I made 386, I think it's 386 permutations of that email address. And I wrote to all 386 of them, one-line message. This is the crazy, this is the lunacy of people, right? All I said is, hi, you're in resourcing, I'm in outsourcing, we should work together. That's all I wrote. And I went to, that's all I wrote. It was cryptic enough so for him, all I wanted was a response back that says, sounds intriguing, let's talk, okay? 3 weeks later, finally that email came through. And that was the writing on the wall. 6 months into a relationship with this guy, my business was acquired. So I'd gone from being unemployed or the risk of unemployed within 22 months, I'd sold my business for 8 figures. But that's not the rags to riches. I think the important thing to understand in here is reaction. And it's not about the speed of reaction, it's the depth of your reaction. as you go through your life, even if you're young, if you're watching this and you're young and you say, well, you've had work experience, you have all had these kind of experiences where your instincts have been at the best, where you've had a gut feel and you've gone with your gut and it's served you well, whether it's in the school play yard, whether it's deciding to have this or not, maybe to decide what subject what topic you did in your coursework, to what color tie you wore to an interview. These are all instinctive choices that you make. Okay. Now, the thing with this is, the thing to really learn about this is it's not what's happening to you, it's what's happening around you and how your action is going to influence or impact that environment around you.
I'm so glad. I'm
for
so
me,
glad you're sharing that.
Yeah, but for me, the biggest part was exhausting all of that out of my head to then turn around and say, well, look, the market's like this. Other people are losing their jobs. Companies are going to suffer. And through that, I came up with the concept of contracting and then outsourcing those contracts to other people. Okay. So your answer is there all in front of you. The problem is that you're blinded by what's instantly happening to you right now. So when you mentioned earlier in this conversation about COVID and the pandemic and what's happening now, and believe me, the world is going to go through a recession right now, but it's a very different type of recession to what 2008 was. The things we have around here is people are still thinking very closely about them. My health, my sanity, my ability to be able to procure my business, my ability to be able to generate income. Me. But look at your environment. You're not the only one. There are others out there as well. Now, this could be the difference between you collaborating with someone and actually having both of your geniuses come together and start forward, or for you to actually take a sidestep and say, actually, maybe it's not me trying to start a business. Maybe it's me trying to prove that this is a concept that is needed right now. But one thing that thought mindset and process is going to do is it's going to help you take action. And that's the biggest thing that most people will not do. They will talk a good talk. They'll aspire to do a lot of things. They will write about it. They will draw pictures. But you ask that person to make that, take that step. If you had to go and tell someone, go and do something about it, they've already lost because they haven't got it within them to do it. And the reason why they don't is that can't and won't. And the can't and won't comes from two significant things. They don't have belief in the thing that they want to do, and they don't have the belief in themselves that they can do it. Those are the two simplest things that's happened. So my life, where it looked like the rug was being taken from under me, was actually a solid platform being put under. It's just the way you see it.
Yeah, it's your perspective. And also, I think one thing that adds to this is don't think leaps and bounds. Think baby steps. I always tell, I had a conversation with the CEO yesterday. So for the past 12 years, I get up at 4 o'clock every morning and I start 2 hours before everybody else. And I do that 7 days a week because most people get up at 6. And I did the calculation one day, how much this accounts for over a year. And it amounts to 93 8-hour working days. 93, 3 months that I'm ahead of the curve. I'm ahead of everything. So if you think about it differently, if you just take an hour, that's 45 days. If you want to learn something and you read 2 articles a day, that's 700 and something articles per year. You're going to think differently. And it's just small steps. Do something small and see how it goes. Do something small and see how it goes.
Because the beauty of what you say there is it's very it's more agile than it is fragile. When you talk leaps and bounds, if I ask you to now jump, put a chair on a table and then jump, and that's your leap that you're talking about, the chances are, doesn't matter where you land or how you land, the chances are you're going to fracture something along the way. The reason being is because you're going over all the milestones that you need to build. Whereas this kind of small step basis allows you to take a step forward, a step to the side, a step laterally, maybe even a step backwards if you need to, and keep repeating. But the other thing is within your domain of control. So there's this whole thing we call the competence confidence balance, basically. So
Mm.
to have confidence in something, you've got to practice it. To practice something, you've got to have knowledge in it. To be able to then, build, continuously build and understand and grow, you need to then take that knowledge and continue practicing again. The point of it is, if you have too much knowledge, it disables you from taking action. If you take action without knowledge, you don't know where you're going. So this whole thing that you built, I love the fact that whether it's just 45 minutes or 2 hours a day that you have advanced, the way you look at it is, I'm getting a competitive advantage over anyone else in the world. I'm spending this kind of time. The beauty of it is you believe in it, and when you believe in it, that's, even if you didn't do anything else for the remaining 8 hours of the day that you would be working on, you've got solid gold in those 2 hours.
Yes.
That still keeps you productive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you've shared today is absolute platinum gold. This is diamond level stuff, because that's what people need to think. Because if I look at your journey, you could not, after a bottle of whiskey, dreamt up where you would have ended up in 22 months. That could not be planned with the greatest of knowledge and AI and everything else out there. Simply what I see in you is something happened, you looked, you noticed, you saw, you made a decision. And then the next, and then the next, and then the next.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. And
Yeah.
and a lot of people think it's more complex, but it's not.
No,
Ketan.
it's as simple as that. But as you build your own mantra, and believe me, that was my system. So any of you watching this right now, don't follow my system. Don't say, okay, blah, 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 because he did that, it's going to work for me. You've got to design your own system. It's got to work for you. It's got to work for you. However, what will happen is, that's been my mantra all the way through now. After exiting the business, and I'm like looking at myself, I didn't stop there. I went and started another one. I got bored of that, so I started another one. I lost in that one because I became too cocky. And that's what happens. You pump yourself up with ego, and then all of a sudden something comes and bursts your balloon. And I lost £250,000 in that venture. Ouch. Which is a very, very expensive learning curve. But that £250,000 lesson made my next company, which is going leaps and bounds to wherever it goes. So your journey is going to be laden with challenges all the time. There are two things you've got to, or three things that I would say that you need to do. Number one is check yourself into the position. So understand where you fit, what's happening to you. Then start what's happening around you. And then it's about making those small, fine adjustments. It's for me today, my career, if I look back now, I sound like I've done a lot in a very short space of time. I've been a special advisor to a prime minister. I work with multiple governments. I get into rooms where I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to be in that room.
I've been there as well, and yet we're there.
Yes, and the only reason I'm there is because I know what I can do in that small space. I stay in my lane. I'm a genius in this. You're not a genius in that, which means that's why I'm there. You have me there because of that. And when you start building that type of ego, that's a good ego within you. Yes, you may come out looking proud in front of people, but that's your confidence. You stay in your lane. You keep focusing. Don't look at your neighbor. Don't look at the people that have got the Ferraris.
Don't compare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because
this is the game I play. This is the lane I swim in. I don't care what's happening in your lane. That's not my race.
To give you a very quick analogy about this, some of you may remember this. If you don't, when you're watching this, go and do research on this. So at the Rio Olympics, it was the swimming finals, and Phelps had just barely qualified for the finals. The Chad Leclos was there as well. Okay. Now, when Phelps came out, everyone in all the competitors started to become a little bit nervous. I mean, Phelps is Phelps. Michael Phelps has won pretty much every swimming title.
Aquaman himself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, the favorite, because at that time was Chad Leclos, they thought Leclos was going to take the gold. Okay. Now, if you watch this race, 2/3 of the way into the race, Chad Leclos does one thing. He looks up, and you see the camera as he comes up on his stroke. He turns his head to the left, and he looks at Michael Phelps. In that split second, Michael Phelps took the lead, won the gold, and cyclocross came. I don't even think he finished in gold in
Range.
medal table. And the moral of that story is, the minute you look across in someone's lane, you've lost. You've lost your momentum, and you've given momentum to the other person.
Absolutely.
And they're focused on their race. So just focus on yours. You know, wherever you're supposed to be, you'll get to. But if you start comparing what you have to other people, you'll never be satisfied. You'll never gratify. You'll always be in envious mode, and you'll never be able to deliver what your heart wants to deliver, because it means that your heart keeps changing what it wants. So just think about that. Just think about that when you're looking at what it is that you want to do. Because one day someone's going to ask you the question, why did you get into it? Why did you get into what you're doing? And if you cannot answer that question truthfully, if honestly, if you got into it because someone else did, fine, say it, okay? But most people, they try to make the story, well, you know, I was always dreamt of being it. No, you didn't. You know, you saw something else happen. Some people, lucky people get these opportunities. Brave people take opportunities. But as I say, winners are those in the face of adversity make their opportunities.
Oh, they do.
So, and all of us, you know, right now, we're all in the same boat. No matter how big you are as a corporation or small you are as a startup, the virus and the pandemic takes no prisoners. You know, whether you're a king or a prince or you're a street beggar, we're all the same. We can all get the virus. We can all die. The business can fold. I mean, look at the airline industries. They're collapsing. Look at restaurants, and major companies are losing jobs right now. The economies are being held up by small to medium businesses more than corporations.
Yes.
Okay, so if you just bear that no one's immune to anything like this, that means that you've got every chance to be where you want to be right now. So your opportunity is right now.
Thank you. And one thing before we finish up, one thing you mentioned there, don't compare. I actually had a half an hour conversation with somebody yesterday. I said, I'm 35 and I'm supposed to be there and I'm supposed to have that and and they're like, no, because you live in this dream of what and shoulds and coulds, you don't value and have gratitude for what you have, and you miss the serendipitous experiences that happen here.
Yes.
There's a lot of opportunity, but because your eyes are there, you're not seeing what the hell is happening here. And
exactly.
I went and you could see the penny drop. And I said, you know what? And I said, look at the organization you work for. Stand on the shoulders of giants. And immediately you could see how this person lit up because they saw what they had and they got appreciation and gratitude for it.
Yeah.
And yeah. Ketan, I think you and I can do this till kingdom come. But but I want to thank you for this, and I really want to say thank you for this golden nuggets of knowledge and help. And I think everybody currently experiencing any type of financial or work impact due to this virus must watch this video. I think you just surmised.
I just want to leave you with one last thing. I mean, I've got a TEDx video which I did. I did a TEDx talk on mindset and moving landscapes. But out of that, there's one extract that I just want to pull for any of you out there. It's what I call the PPF factor. Okay, there are three things commonly that happen to you: pain, panic, and fear. Okay. Pain is like loss, comes from loss and trauma and stuff like this. Okay, pain is a natural thought blocker. So if you're in pain, you can't think about anything but the pain. I mean, you stub your toe on the corner of the bed or your table, you're not thinking about what you're going to eat right then. It's your toe and the little toe, etc. But pain is also temporary. It can go away. If you let it. When it does, you regain your control ability to think. Okay, if you don't, you'll be enslaved to that pain for the rest of your life. Panic is when we lose control. So when you hyperventilate, when you're breathing really heavy, and what we do is we give someone a paper bag to re-regulate. If you're ever in a state of panic where you feel like you're losing control, take a deep breath, step back to a point where you can say, okay, I know I can't do this, but this is what I can. Focus on your can and not on your can't. And fear, as we know, is an acronym, is false evidence appearing real. We
Absolutely.
do this all the time, okay? So understand that whatever it is that you are most afraid of is probably the strongest thing that's within you. It's just how are you going to create that story within yourself to go off and not fight your fear or confront your fear or pierce through your fear, but to live what you think you cannot live. Because one day I didn't think I was going to have a business. Today, I'm someone that's had multiple.
And I'll include a link to that TEDx talk below this video, and everybody can watch it. Ketan, again, thank you very much, and all the best with your business.
Thank you, sir.